Hello guys, welcome to outside. As you can see, I'm videotaping this lesson outside. So bear with me with the outside noises of saws and other things that happened on the outside. So welcome to this week's video. This week we're reading chapter 22 and chapter 3 of To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm going to kind of go over both of them real quick and kind of mention some quotations and some big moments within those chapters. But before I move on, I want to say first I want to say I'm very proud of you guys and your hard work and resilience through all of this. You guys have daily impressed me with your ability to reach out to me when you have questions, your ability to advocate for yourself, and to be autonomous during this time of learning. So I just really want to say I'm really proud of you all, and I miss you, and I hope that you're doing well and that you're being nice to yourself. I'm thinking about you guys. Secondly, I'm going to be posting a video today as well about the coming of age characteristics of a story. And with that, we're going to be using that video to guide our discussion within our Flipgrid for the week. I'll be posting those today, I'll be posting those today, but they will be, this video as well as the next video will be posted for Wednesday. Today is the 21st, so tomorrow, Wednesday, will be the 22nd. So sometime between the 22nd and Sunday, which is I can't count, which is the 26th, so sometime before the 26th, make sure to be posting on that Flipgrid, but I would recommend watching my video about coming of age Bildungsroman stories first. So let's talk about 22 and 23. So we've read 22 and 23 today, and these chapters come right after, of course, chapter 21, where we find out the verdict of the jury for To Kill a Mockingbird. It's disappointing and awful. We mentioned that in the last video, so I don't want to get too much into it. But during these two chapters, the kids are mad. Dill's mad, Jem's mad, Scout's mad. They're all mad, and their reactions are very different than the adults in this story. So I first wanted to start on page 285 with you guys. One moment, let me turn to it. And I want to read a quick passage from 285. Second page of the novel, and I'm going to begin with Atticus, okay? Actually, I'll start with I'm not bitter, so it's right here on the page. It says, I'm not bitter, just tired, I'm going to bed. Atticus, said Jem bleakly. He turned in the driveway. What, son? How could they do it? How could they? I don't know, but they did. They've done it before, and they'll do it, and they did it tonight, and they'll do it again when they do it. Seems that only children weep. Good night. I thought that was an interesting topic, interesting quote, especially since we continue to talk about the difference between adults and children within the story and their ideologies. So I just thought that was an interesting thing that I wanted to highlight. Moving forward, in the morning, this is the morning after the trial, Atticus and the children wake up and they find a lot of food that people have been giving them. This food is coming from Calpurnia's church. It's coming from people who are proud of Atticus and wanted to say thank you. They get a whole chicken from Tom Robinson's father, and Atticus is confused. He's been a lawyer for a long time, but he's never gotten this type of treatment before. And Calpurnia explains they just want to say thank you, and Atticus says, well, tell them to stop because I know this is a hard time for them, and both financially and just emotionally, so tell them that I don't need this. So there's a lot of giving that happens within the people who believe in what Atticus believes in, and that's kind of comparable to the people who disagree with him. So we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So that's what's going on, and then we get the Dill side of the story. So Dill forgot to tell his aunt, Miss Stephanie, that he was going, or he did, but she didn't want him to go, and so he's getting in trouble, and Dill's a little angry. He's like, why do adults have to be so mean, right? And I just wanted to highlight a little quote from Miss Stephanie. So Atticus is like, Dill, you got to be telling your aunt where you're going. The kids are like, you got to tell your aunt where you're going. He's like, I did, she just won't listen. And then this is a quotation from Miss Stephanie. It's not a quotation from her, but it's a quotation about her feelings towards Dill going to this trial. And I'm going to start with, I hate grown folks looking at you. that starts about the middle of the page on 287, and this is Dill talking. "I hate grown folks looking at you," said Dill. "Makes you feel like you've done something." Miss Maudie yelled for Jem Finch to come there. Jem groaned and heaved himself up from the swing. "We'll go with you," said Dill. Miss Stephanie's nose quivered with curiosity. She wanted to know who all gave us permission to go to the court. She didn't see us, but it was all over town this morning that we were in the colored balcony. Did Atticus put us up there as some sort of... Wasn't it right up close there with all those... Did Scout understand all the... Didn't it make us mad to see our daddy beat? So I thought that was an interesting moment within the novel of saying that Miss Stephanie is like, why would they... Are they being used as political pawns, basically, is what she's saying. Did they understand what was going on in the trial? Why did they sit in the colored balcony? Obviously, segregation is still happening within this time. That obviously, the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s did not happen when this novel was out in the 30s. So the segregation was still a thing. So people of color did have to sit in separate sections of every establishment. And so she's like, why would they sit up there with them? Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. So this juxtaposition, this comparison between these, first of all, children and adults and their ideologies, and then secondly, how some adults believe in what Atticus believes in, and some adults disagree completely. And one of those adults is Miss Stephanie. Disagrees with what was happening, or at least was confused as what was to happen in that moment. Moving forward on this, the children are making a lot of discoveries within these two chapters. So remember that this idea of these kids are discovering a lot of injustice and a lot of ideas that they weren't aware of before this time within these two chapters. Jem shows a lot more emotion in these chapters. We've always seen Scout be a little scrappy, a little angsty, but Jem has always been kind of put together. He's a polite young man. He's kind of shy. He's kind of quiet, but in these two chapters, he seems to speak out quite a bit. So note that. And then at the very end of the chapter, we find out that Miss Stephanie saw Bob Ewell spit on Atticus and say, "He's gonna get him. I'm gonna get you." And that moves straight into the chapter 23. So chapter 23 begins on 291, and so we find out right at the end of chapter 22 that Bob Ewell spits on Atticus, and Miss Stephanie recounts this situation, and Miss Stephanie says that when Bob is like, "Oh, you're too afraid to fight me? You too afraid to fight me?" Atticus responds, "No, too old," which I think is really awesome. I was like, heck yeah, good for you. Yeah, Atticus is saying, "No, I'm too old to have this fight right now with you in the middle of. I'm over it. I'm too mature for this." Is kind of what I thought he was saying. Maybe you think something differently. So I just wanted to highlight that real quick. And we get a lot of Aunt Alexandria's, oh, there's a spider web above me. Okay, that's fun. We're gonna ignore it. I hope it'll be fine, right? Video documentation. I'm not scared of spiders. It's fine. Everything's fine. Give me one moment, people. I'm gonna move it. Live action, moving a spider. I love you, Spooter Boy, but I just... Oh, he's flying away. Okay. Oh. Okay, we're fine. The winds took it, so God bless. Anyway, so sorry about that. So we get a lot of Aunt Alexandria's input during these chapters, and it's not necessarily in line with what the kids are believing. She's kind of like, you need to stay away from certain people, and you need to be sophisticated. It's kind of the shenanigans that she's been putting on for the entirety of this situation. Okay, so I wanted to read another. So the kids are again discovering all this new stuff, this new information, and they're kind of inferring and building their own ideas, which is really interesting to watch. And they're making a lot of discoveries. They're making a lot of bold assumptions, or not bold assumptions. They're making a lot of they're connecting the dots for themselves, which I think is really interesting. They're no longer just asking the questions, they're answering those questions for themselves. So on page 299, we kind of see this idea of the kids asking questions and then coming to their own conclusions. On page 299, or sorry, 298. Sorry, one moment, I can't find it. 294. Sorry, my handwriting is super bad. So on 294, we see Atticus say, in a conversation with Jem, I'm going to start right at the beginning of the page. Yes, sir, but the jury didn't have to give him death. If they wanted to, they could have gave him 20 years. Given, said Atticus. Bob Robinson's a colored man, Jem. No jury in this part of the world's going to say, we think you're guilty, but not very, on a charge like that. It was either a straight acquittal or not. Jem was shaking his head. I know it's not right, but I can't figure out what's wrong. Maybe rape shouldn't be a capital offense, ... And then Jem and Atticus begin this conversation about this very adult conversation that they've never really had before within this novel about the justice system and how the justice system is different for certain people, and Jem starts to build his own ideas and say, like, well, I don't think this is right, this is what I believe, and he's creating these beliefs and having these conversations, which is kind of new in this novel, I would say. And then moving forward, we find out that, or the kids find out, the kids find out that women can't be on juries, and so they're, again, making these discoveries of, like, what? Women can't be in juries? We don't understand the jury system, we don't understand justice, we don't understand all these unequal laws that are happening within Maycomb. We didn't know this, we just kind of knew what life was like to be here, and we knew how to act properly, and what our father expected of us, what our community expected of us, but we didn't know what our community was portraying on other people. So they're kind of getting they're kind of discovering the racism and the inequality that's happening within Maycomb, and they're like, what? Women can't be on jury? So Miss Monty can't be on a jury? And Atticus is like, yep, she can't be on a jury. And they're like, what? This is crazy. So that's one discovery that they make, and they're learning so much. They're learning so much about so many things through this court case and through their experience in the court. They also find out that it was almost a hung jury, and there was one person who was ready to acquit Tom Robinson, and that the person who was going to acquit Tom Robinson was kin to Mr. Cunningham. And we know from reading earlier in the chapters that Mr. Cunningham was one of the men who went to picket Atticus when Atticus was protecting Tom Robinson in the jail. And so this is very interesting to them, and Scout's like, I want to thank him. And then Aunt Alexandria comes around and says, you can't be kin to you can't be accepting of a Cunningham. They're drunks, they're lower than us, they're lower than the Finch people. And Scout's like, that doesn't make sense, I don't understand that. So they also get presented, not only are they learning these things about the justice system, they're learning things about racism, they're learning things about sexism, but they're also learning factors such as hierarchy. So as Scout, I can't associate with people of color, I can't associate, but I also can't associate with white people who are lesser than me. And so they're kind of trying to figure out, like, okay, so who am I associated with? Who can I associate with? And why can't I associate with these people? And so these ideas, again, are running through their all the children's minds. And they're asking a lot of questions, and they're making a lot of inferences. So these two chapters are a big moment for all of the children, but I would say quite a big moment for Jem. So keep those ideas in mind, and definitely track the changes that happened within the children throughout this novel. So that's kind of what's happening, but in chapter 22 and 23, I want to just give you guys your quick essential questions real quick. So the essential questions for chapter 22 and 23. 1, we have, Why is there such an obvious difference between the children / young people of Maycomb versus the old people? So why is there such a difference between these children and their ideas compared to like Miss Stephanie, right? What changes happen? This is 2. What changes happen within these 2 chapters? This could be in the characters. What changes happen within the narrative about people of color? What changes in in their ideas of the justice system, or is the justice system changing, etc. So what's changing between chapter 20 compared to chapter 22, right? 3. What do we think of Jem in these chapters? Is he growing? Is he changing? What's going on with Jem in these 2 chapters? So those are kind of things I want to keep in mind, and again, those will be in the description below. Yeah, so that's kind of the essential questions for this week. Before I give you your song of the day and your advice of the day, I just want to say make sure to be checking Planbook every single day. There is going to be a Flipgrid that I will link in this video, but I will also be linking it in the coming of age video, and it'll be on Planbook. So please make sure to do that Flipgrid this week. You guys did an awesome job on the Flipgrid on last week, so bring that energy to this week. It's been a pleasure watching you guys and being able to be your teacher. So the song of the day was, one moment, the song of the day is Greyhound by a band called Calpurnia. I thought that was kind of catchy and good for this week. Calpurnia is actually a band that has Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things in it, so I really like that band. But anyway, so Greyhound by Calpurnia. Again, that will be in the description. And my advice of the week is make sure to go outside, get some fresh air, whether that means cracking your window open or I don't know, kicking around a hacky sack in your backyard. Just make sure to be getting fresh air and stay safe and healthy. And if you have any questions, like always, make sure to email me. All right, bye guys.